The continued nightmares of Europe's economy in 2025. In 2025, Europe's economic landscape continues to be fraught with challenges that seem almost insurmountable. Years of political uncertainty, fluctuating market conditions, inflation, and energy crisis have left the continent grappling with deep-rooted economic issues. These issues are not only affecting the EU's financial stability, but also its global competitiveness. This article dives into the continued nightmares that are haunting Europe's economy in 2025, highlighting key economic challenges and their broader implications. Number 1. High inflation rates and cost of living crisis. One of the most pressing issues in Europe today is persistently high inflation rates, particularly in the Eurozone. Following the pandemic, the energy crisis, and supply chain disruptions, inflation has spiraled out of control, leading to rising prices for everyday goods. By 2025, inflation is still significantly above the ECB's target, placing considerable pressure on consumers. For many Europeans, wages have not kept pace with the rising costs, and this has triggered a cost of living crisis across the continent. Countries like Germany, France, and Italy have witnessed significant increases in basic living expenses, from housing to food and transportation. The growing gap between wages and costs has led to widespread dissatisfaction, protests, and political instability. In some regions, social unrest stemming from the economic divide has put governments under immense pressure to enact policies that can ease the financial strain on their citizens. Number 2. Energy crisis continues to haunt Europe. Europe's energy crisis, which began in the wake of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, is far from over in 2025. Dependence on imported energy remains a key vulnerability, with many European countries still struggling to reduce reliance on Russian gas and oil. Although efforts have been made to transition to renewable energy sources, the infrastructure and technological advancements required to fully shift to green energy have not materialized at the pace needed. In 2025, Europe continues to face energy shortages, particularly during the winter months, which have a knock-on effect on industries and households. Energy prices remain high, and governments are still struggling to find long-term solutions to provide affordable and sustainable energy for their populations. The energy insecurity that plagues the continent creates a ripple effect, slowing down economic recovery and growth, while also threatening the livelihoods of vulnerable populations. Number 3. Skyrocketing national debts and fiscal imbalance. In the aftermath of multiple crises, COVID-19, the energy crisis, and inflationary pressures, many European nations find themselves burdened by enormous national debts. Public debt to GDP ratios have soared to unprecedented levels, with countries like Italy, Greece, and Spain facing fiscal imbalances that are proving difficult to manage. Despite various EU-wide efforts to address fiscal issues, there has been no unified approach that can quickly alleviate the financial stress of these heavily indebted nations. The European Central Bank's attempt to maintain low interest rates has created an environment of cheap credit, but as inflation continues to rise, countries are now facing the burden of servicing these growing debts. Number 4. Unemployment and job insecurity. Though Europe has seen recovery in some sectors, unemployment remains a persistent issue, especially in Southern and Eastern Europe. As automation and digitalization continue to disrupt traditional industries, many workers are finding themselves in low-skill or precarious jobs without the prospects of long-term security. In 2025, the mismatch between education systems and job market demands continues to result in youth unemployment and underemployment. Young people, in particular, are struggling to find stable jobs with fair wages. The issue is compounded by the high costs of living, making it harder for the younger generation to build wealth and stability, which is further feeding the growing wealth inequality on the continent. Number 5. Political instability and the rise of populism. Economic struggles often lead to political instability, and in 2025, Europe is no exception. The rising economic disparity, coupled with a growing sense of disillusionment with traditional political parties, has fueled the rise of populist movements across Europe. These movements often thrive on anti-EU sentiment, protectionist policies, and nationalistic rhetoric. Countries such as Hungary and Poland have witnessed political shifts that are at odds with the core values of the European Union, while other nations such as France and Italy have seen protests and radical changes in government due to dissatisfaction with economic policies. The rise of populism is not just affecting national elections, but also challenging the very structure of the EU, as some leaders demand more sovereignty and less EU oversight, which further complicates any coordinated efforts to tackle the region's economic problems. Number 6. Struggling manufacturing and supply chain disruptions. Europe's manufacturing sector continues to face significant difficulties in 2025. The region's industrial backbone, particularly in countries like Germany and France, has been struggling to recover from the disruptions caused by the pandemic and the war in Ukraine. In addition to labor shortages and inflationary pressures on materials, European manufacturing has not been able to fully integrate the digital technologies that are shaping global industry. Supply chain disruptions still plague the continent, with delays, increased costs, and logistical challenges affecting everything from car production to consumer goods. Many European manufacturers are finding it harder to compete with lower-cost producers in Asia, leading to a gradual erosion of Europe's industrial competitiveness in certain sectors. Conclusion: a long road to recovery. As we move through 2025, Europe finds itself navigating a complex web of economic challenges. High inflation, energy insecurity, political instability, and demographic shifts continue to cast a shadow over the region's economic future. While efforts to address these issues are ongoing, the road to recovery remains long and uncertain. Europe's economic nightmares are not likely to disappear anytime soon, but the region's resilience, innovation, and ability to adapt will be crucial in shaping its future. However, it will require bold leadership, significant investment, and a commitment to cooperation among EU member states to steer the continent toward a more stable and prosperous economic future.